one of their technicians didn't take the deal I offered him, which would have been sign the paper, you work for me, non-solicitation, non-compete. He didn't take the offer, and I didn't up my offer because he wanted, let's say, $1,200 take home, and I was offering $1,000. And I, penny wise, pound foolish, he stole business.
Hi, I'm Paul Giannamore. I wanted to welcome our new subscribers to the channel. You know, historically, Potomac TV has been focused on business and operational information and interviews for residential and commercial services business owners. But after the publication of the Sell-Side M&A Masterclass last month, my LinkedIn inbox has been inundated with a variety of different requests. So Dylan and I will be sitting down filming more extensive M&A masterclasses, both focusing on the sell side as well as the buy side. I intend to talk about the choice of process, delving deep into M&A psychology, as well as extensive buy side practice, approach, and due diligence. For those of you who have not subscribed, you can click below and subscribe to the channel. Furthermore, we've provided a link here in the description where you can get on our email distribution list. And if you do that, you'll receive an email right in your inbox with our latest publications. Feel free to put a comment below on the types of things you want to see. I mean, this channel is largely driven by you, the viewer, and what you want to see from us. Again, thanks for joining us here at Potomac TV.
Jeremy, it's great to have you here on the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was particularly interested in getting you on here because I want to talk about New York Metro business. And I guess in order to get started, let's go back a little bit into your history here. How'd you get started in the business?
So I got started in the business with my uncle. I worked with him when I was in high school, doing termite jobs, just kind of doing some extra work on the side through college. And then did my own thing, went to college, and came back and worked with him in 2001 and worked for him for 9 years. An amazing mentor, really successful guy working in the New York area. I learned a tremendous amount from him. And after about 9 years, just kind of was time for me to go on my own and just took the next step.
So when you left your uncle's firm, did you start Rest Easy from scratch?
Actually started a canine inspection company. So we were the first and only independent canine inspection, bed bug dog inspection business in New York City about 6 to 8 months before the pandemic of bed bugs started, or the epidemic of bed bugs started. So right place at the right time, and we crushed the market for about 18 months. After about 18 months, we saw the writing on the wall as prices for inspection started coming down, the hype in the media started coming down, and I was like, okay, in that 18 months, I got married, bought a house, and had a kid. So I was like, all right, I need to kind of start taking care of my family and go back into what I know, which is pest control. So that was around 2011 we started, 2012.
So you basically took the canine inspection business, added pest to it. Is that what you did?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
So we went from a completely reoccurring business model with a full staff of 4 dogs and handlers, office staff, to a full service pest control company, and lost my biggest client, which wasn't my uncle, but it was another client in New York City, because before I went and did pest control, the day before I started, or maybe a week before I started, I went in to speak to all my clients because I had to tell them I was no longer independent, right? I was going to start competing with them in the marketplace, and that guy dropped me.
They were out.
Done.
Gotcha.
25% of my business out the door.
Okay. So you get into pest. At that time, when you added the pest control service, how many people were on the team? Was it just you doing this now?
No, because I still kept a lot of the people, right? So we had like a good amount of business still coming in. It was
So you allocated those guys to pest.
I started to allocate. Well, we still were doing a lot of bed bug dogs, so we're still very big into the bed bug dog business. But the pest control was super small at that point, like non-existent. And also, we didn't know how to do pest control because I came from the office side of things, and I had very limited knowledge on doing pest control, and a lot of knowledge on how to talk about doing pest control. So I could talk to you about how to do an ant job. I could talk to you about how to get rid of your mice in your house. But have I ever done that job? No.
Have you ever done that job?
Not really. I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
So the business is based in, you guys are in Long Island, in Nassau County.
Nassau County, yeah. That's where we started it. The office has always been in Nassau County, although we have satellite offices in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and other areas like that. I've always been either in Queens. We actually started in Queens, and now we're in Nassau County as the home office. But we cover a pretty vast area.
But how much of your business is in the 5 boroughs versus out on the island?
I'd say it's about 50-50.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, about
Yeah,
50-50.
I thought you were more Long Island heavy.
No, it's like about half the business in Manhattan, and half the business is in Long Island.
Okay. You know, one of the things you and I have talked about over the years is acquisitions.
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of small deals to help you build that business.
Absolutely.
How did you get into that?
So again, my uncle, and working with my uncle for a long time, he was really big into acquisitions. We used to send out postcards. We'd go out to events and meet people. So I cut my teeth working with him, not only being involved in the meetings of negotiation, but also integration, which is a key part of the acquisitions. When I left him, I just kind of went the same route, right? So now I was doing my own thing, gaining my own business, and just looking for opportunity. And that's always kind of helped me. Like whenever I've opened my eyes to opportunity, it's kind of presents itself. It's kind of sitting here with you.
Yeah. I remember the first time we ever chatted some years ago, the first thing you said to me was like, if you ever see any New York Metro acquisitions that might be too small for you to deal with, don't throw them away.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah.
I want to talk to these guys. How many, since you started that business, how many deals have you done?
So I'm glad I did some research because I thought I could never remember. I think we've done 16 in 10 years. So 2012, 12 years. It's about 16 and 12 years.
And what are the size ranges of these deals in terms of revenue?
Anything from 60,000 to 600,000.
Okay.
So the biggest ones we've done is about 600,000. The smallest one's about 60. Yeah.
And you met these guys by going out to the meetings. Did you send postcards like your uncle?
No,
Okay.
it did not.
You just raised your hand as somebody who's looking to actually make acquisitions.
I did what I did with you, right? Everyone that I know that I talk to and I speak to knows that I love acquisitions. It's how I grow my business. I'm really good at it. The owners that I work with have great relationships with them. So just I think through word of mouth, it's helped a lot over the years. So as it gets started, I think in the beginning it's just talking to people. Hey, do you know anything? I'm not looking for anything expensive. Just trying to grow my business.
Yeah. What are some of the learnings you've had from doing deals? Some of the do's and don'ts, because I'm sure you've seen both sides of it.
Yeah, the biggest. So I've only done great deals, and I'd say almost one of the last few deals that I've done was my biggest burn, where there was one technician they had 2 technicians. So most of the companies are small, so they have a few technicians. Mm-hmm. They had 2. And one of their technicians didn't take the deal I offered him, which would have been sign the paper, you work for me, non-solicitation, non-compete. He didn't take the offer, and I didn't up my offer because he wanted, let's say, $1,200 take home, and I was offering $1,000. And I, penny wise, pound foolish, he stole business.
I see.
Because he did not have a non-solicitation with the other company. So that's something I learned, even in the small businesses. When the next time I do my deals, we're going to make sure that before I go in and before, like, as we're going through the process, is that they get their kind of their house in order a little bit before we buy. So that's one of the big lessons I've recently learned.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point. I mean, what we would typically do in order to get a client prepped for a sale is one of the first questions I ask is, do your technicians, your employees have non-solicits agreements, right?
Correct.
Nowadays non-competes are a little bit more complicated, but if you have a non-solicitation of employees and customers, you want to get that thing signed as soon as you possibly can and make sure that there's a transferability clause in it. That way, ultimately, if you sell your business, somebody like you buys it, you can get that assigned to you, right?
Yeah. It's a lesson that I didn't know before, but now I do know. Again, the deals have been so small and we've been so successful with what we've done. It hasn't come to bite us in the ass, but this time it did. So learn.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot easier to get the owner to get that signed in advance than when the technician has a ton of leverage, right?
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What are some other, I mean, that's a great lesson actually to learn. What are some, unfortunately you learned it the hard way, but what are some other lessons you might have learned?
I think, again, as we get bigger, some of what we're learning now is even integrating the smaller companies are getting more difficult. In the old days, it was really simple. I would take anything. In the old days, I would, of Amazon Local, if you remember, I don't know if you remember what that was, we would do a job for $29.99 and give half of it to Amazon. So I'd make $15 to do a job just to get my truck in someone's driveway. So we would take anything. It was very easy to integrate anything to our company because we didn't have any business.
Yep.
Now, as we're getting bigger, what we're learning is a lot of the small, if you're buying $150,000, $180,000 route, 20% of it could be very low revenue generating, which in the old days was fine. You'd go with it and you deal with it and kind of raise them as you can.
Yep.
So what we're learning right now is as we're getting to that next level, is it's harder to integrate those customers. So how do you value them today versus 10 years ago is a lot different for us. 10 years ago, I could have offered dollar for dollar on that. Now on something like that, I have to be more careful because I know I'm going to lose it a lot sooner and I'm just going to be wasting money.
What do you see with pricing on some of these smaller guys versus what you do?
What they're charging.
Yeah, I'm talking about customer pricing.
Depends. Some of them are really underpriced. We went and did a job in the Poconos that was a completely different business model from us. So that's in Pennsylvania. And their pricing model was completely in line with today's pricing, right? Different model. They do EOM, seasonal type stuff where we don't do that over in the Long Island area, the Westchester area. But I think with a lot of the smaller companies that have been around for, let's say, 50 years, where if it's a one-man shop, the prices are going to be somewhat significantly lower. So you have to factor that in.
How much of this, with these smaller, like $100,000, $200,000 business, how much of these customers stick around to the relationship with the owner versus, because I hear it all the time. Like, it's like, me personally, I have an accountant that I outgrew a long time ago, but I've had a long relationship with him, so I keep him.
Yeah.
But I should get rid of him. And so if I left my firm, for example, the firm would get rid of that accountant. So I kind of think to myself, sometimes the customers of these smaller guys are loyal to this particular guy.
Yeah.
They might not even like his work, but they're like, I've been working with Fred for 20 years. Fred goes away.
Right.
The customer says, I'm out of here.
It's not as high as you would think, but there are certain people that unequivocally, the day it happens, they're like, he's not there. We're not staying.
We only stuck around because of him, right?
Correct. So what we typically do is we like white lie the transition. We finagle it so that we're basically saying that, Franco's retiring. He's going to be working on the back end. He's not going to be front facing anymore. If you need to
Be a dream.
just trying to give you some hope. Yes, it's Tuesday, Wednesday. What day is it? So we try to kind of explain that they're still involved in the business. They're just not going to be in there anymore. And we send letters that explain that from them and then from us. And then if need be for the good customers or the ones that we're worried about, they'll probably make phone calls to them. And we'll try to keep them. So, but I would still say it's a very small percentage that leave automatic.
And are you typically then are you attempting to keep these folks on, or are you just taking the customers and integrating them into your current routes, at least where the acquisition is in your geography?
We're typically what I try to do is not change anything. So same service schedule, same pricing, and go in there and do what we have to do. If it's a complete loss, let's say it's a commercial facility and it's $40 a month, we'll go in, we'll assess it. We may do a service or two to kind of just get it going, and then say, okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to cost X, Y, and Z. So I have a good example of that too with the commercial business we bought over 10 years ago now in New York City. 25% of his business was with one management company, and he hated them. They were like, he's horrible, they're terrible, we hate them. And he's like, I should raise their price. I'm like, don't raise prices. Just let me go in there. We'll just account for that not being there. If they're there, we'll figure it out. But like, let's just assume we're going to lose them. But like, let me try, because you obviously have an interesting relationship with them. Let me see if I could fix it up. So we went in and similar type big buildings in New York City for like $60. And then they would get mice. I'm like, yeah, because you don't have any rodent control. You have glue boards like somewhere. Like, we're going to have to do this. So we started billing them because if you want to do it, yes, until they got the bills. And then they fired us.
They booted you out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Within weeks. I mean, there's a funnier story to that, but...
Not for the show?
Nah, it's a different story.
So you didn't think about this prior... You didn't have any other purchase price contingent upon the retention of that key customer.
Right. We factored that. When I made that deal, I factored that piece of the business out.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Because it was a loss.
in addition to doing deals, I mean, you guys are growing at a very fast clip. I mean, you're one of the bigger private businesses on Long Island in the industry now, right? I would say. Well, a lot of these have been gobbled up. So
Right.
That certainly helped your.
Yeah, with the acquisitions that have been going on over the last 10 years, we're medium to upper. I don't know exactly, but
Yeah. So how, besides doing deals, I know that you're very, very heavy into digital marketing.
yeah.
And that's kind of your shtick too.
Yeah.
Don't you have that sort of background?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, just trying to stay one step ahead of Google. Before Google, it was Yelp. Before Yelp, it was the Yellow Pages, right? Like, there's, how many companies out here that are selling SEO and services like that, and they're all very similar, and I'm sure they do a great job. But trying to always stay like one step ahead of the technology is just a key piece of it. And at one point I had like a 7-person marketing team. We built out like 400 micro websites in Long Island. It cost lots and lots of money, and it's a complete failure. That was one of the things that didn't work.
Okay.
But we've done a lot of things that have worked over the years. Getting reviews on Google was a big win for us. Early adopting to things like Google Local Services, or GLS, with a company like Search Kings, who I met at an event at the Northeast Conference or the Eastern Conference one year, was a huge win for us. I walked by a booth, I saw what they were doing, I identified them, like, I know it, I get it, I want it. It was called Google Guarantee, like right before it came out, except it took a while to get Google Guaranteed. So I was like, I'm in. I love you, I'm in, I want it. I was the first. I was like, don't sell it to anybody else. Of course, that was not true.
Shut your booth down.
But no one else no one else got it quick enough, because I owned New York for one season at $25 a lead per call. Sorry, not per call. Sick, ridiculous growth that year, ridiculous. And I've had a couple of different events in my life, digital marketing and just doing good business, that have kind of translated and propelled my business to like different levels, like 50% at different times.
Why did the microsites fail?
Because I'm not a technology guy, and what we were doing was right. It was done the wrong way. Like the idea. So I'm a big believer that in the home service, especially pest control, people buy like hyper local, right? So if you're here, like Long Island's it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, but actually quite narrow. So from one side to the other side, let's just say it's 5 miles from one side to the other. Someone who lives on the upper north side of Nassau County versus someone who lives on the upper south side of Nassau County, when they Google pest control, they're not going to get the same companies, nor would you buy from someone on the upper north side if you live on the west, on the south side. You don't buy that way. It's a hyper local feel. So what I was trying to do with that, I was trying to create and show up in an organic way when people searched for pest control, so that they would find us and call us.
So you wanted the guy in Smithtown to think you were right there.
Correct.
And it just didn't work.
Now also, so the office, again, so we do have satellite offices, but the technicians that we have, so let's say we have 30 or 40 technicians, they all take their trucks home. So in reality, we do have offices in Smithtown, in all these different neighborhoods, although Google won't let us say that we do, but we do. That's where they live, and they literally leave their house, they go to work, and they come home. I mean, that could be defined as an office as far as I'm concerned. But so we are super hyper local to our customer base. Just the office may not be.
So you spent a lot of money. You tried that. It didn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some other things that, if you think back historically, what are some other areas you think you've been innovative vis-a-vis what some others are doing?
Some innovative ways. I mean, definitively Google reviews was something that we jumped on really, really early.
But now everyone does that, right?
Now everyone's doing that. So what are we doing now? Right now, honestly, just we're trying to change it. So we signed up with a new new SEO company that does exactly what I was trying to do 10 years ago, that are doing it now. So we engaged with them back in February. We just launched. So that's something that's an 18 to 24 month kind of test, maybe 3-year test, to see if we can actually get to perform where we want to perform. But otherwise, it's just staying one step ahead of Google, and that's an impossible thing, right? You're competing against the monopoly. You're competing against the giant who can literally smack you at any time and say you're out of business. So what are we doing? just trying to figure out what the next step is for us and just trying to figure out what the next avenue is, and then also potentially changing the way we sell. That was another thing we did. And that's probably what we're trying to do
How
next.
so?
So I have an unpopular opinion. I think that the subscription model is dead. Not today, but it's dead and dying. When I started when I was in pest control for 2 years, we were selling pest control the same way everyone else was, which was an annual agreement up front or a fee and quarterly. Not many people, maybe Terminex was charging on a monthly basis.
And on the quarterly, you were doing like a service charge at the time of service?
Or just billing them on a quarterly basis. Okay. Yeah, but most of the time, at least I was charging annually. So you either, let's say, pay $300 to start or $700 or $600 for an annual. You would get your quarterly visits and on demand. So we were going by and selling a few here and a few there, but we were nobody. We had no pull. I couldn't spend a lot of money on advertising. So what we did was we shifted the game, and I was like, all right, why don't we change it? Instead of making them pay up front, just make them pay monthly. So we started advertising pest control for as little as $29.99 a month, and it was $99 fee to start up. This was going back to 2014.
Okay, so you were pretty early on that train.
I was the first in my area, for sure. And we went from 15 accounts to like 700 accounts. I don't know. We could pull the numbers and pass back. A significant increase that we just saw climb and climb and climb and climb. It's the gym membership model, right? That was my theory. And I was like, oh, gym membership model. Like everyone joins a gym. They never use a service. It's perfect. Well, what could be better, right?
More money for you.
Exactly. Now, fast forward how many years later? Now we're 12 years in and everything is a monthly payment. Everything's a monthly payment. So what are we dealing with? Value. Oh, they're leaving because they're happy. They love our service, but they don't have a pest control problem anymore. So now we're trying to create ways to create value. Say hi, take pictures, clean the gutter, clean the thing, bring the paper, and what you want to do anyway from the service perspective. But the question in my mind is like, if we were able to move it like this, right? Because that's all we did. We just changed the way we sold the same product, and bam, we opened the floodgates. So the question now is if we could just do it a different way now and go against the grain of what other people are doing, and instead of going monthly, we change quarterly to triannual, right? Because everyone wants to make more money, like squeeze that extra visit out. Well, what happens if we go back to an every other month model? It's weird, right? That's like a weird thing to say, because now you're doing double the amount of services. But if the pricing is right, and we had that conversation at an Italian restaurant 2 years ago, and your density is good, if you can get 2 stops done in an hour at $100 average, that's $1,600 a day per technician. You could sell the shit out of that business.
Yeah, but I guess, so you're just talking about changing the service frequency. You're not talking about changing the subscription model. Or are you saying?
I'm just, right. Well, the subscription model, I'm calling the subscription model the monthly billing. That's what I'm calling the subscription model.
So you're suggesting to do away with that?
I'm suggesting that I'm not doing away with it.
Remember, you're on the air here. The people don't remember you saying this, so go ahead.
I'm not doing it yet, and I'm getting a lot of, basically I'm getting a lot of kicks in the ass saying like you're fucking crazy, like you don't do it, and I'm sure we could talk about why it's such a dumb idea. The question would be is if we do it, can we get better retention, and can we blow our numbers up by offering a different service than everyone else is offering now, because everyone's offering the same thing at the same rate.
But I, just to make sure I'm clear, you're suggesting forget the monthly billing and payment. Now you go back to service charges, but on an EOM basis, on every other month.
Yeah. So you're just billing them as you go. So you're basically charging them, but you're showing
six times a year.
6 times a year, but for almost the same amount of money. But you're doing more work. But again, it all goes back to production, right? Production per technician. $1,600 a day in production per technician. You would salivate. I would hope. I would. I do.
I 100% get what you were saying about you get these guys on monthly billing, you're doing triennial services, and then you're trying to do all these other things to demonstrate value because there's no pests in the house and you don't want the customer to cancel. I get that. I'm wondering though if, one of the issues I think folks, especially in colder climates, always face is they've tried to pull in the mind of the customer, disassociate the actual service with the billing from the standpoint, like you don't want the customer thinking, I just paid $150 for this guy to spray. So instead, what you're saying is it's $500 a year and you're pest free. Call us anytime. And if you start billing, going back to the old school day
Yeah.
of what you're saying is more frequencies. So they're seeing more
Correct.
more frequency.
It's basically
So-
changing it from a monthly to a bi-monthly. So it's different than what other people are doing. And then showing up more often, which is different than what other people are doing. I'm not even convinced that it's the right thing, but you're talking about like, how are you reinventing yourself? So like, this is like, it's difficult to continue to reinvent yourself in a marketing way. Like I'm doing it. Like I'm always thinking about different ways and how I could do it differently, but the ideas aren't always there. They're just constant thinking and motivating and doing. But this is also a way to do it. Is like, if you can change the way that you present the offering to the customer so that you can increase sales and retain them for longer because you become part of their family.
I guess I see your point, because when you first moved to monthly billing, no one was really doing it.
Correct.
So that was a point of differentiation.
Big.
Then when everyone does it, now everyone's doing the X up front, X a month.
Correct.
The customer doesn't care about the service frequencies.
They don't.
No.
And some customers you can get away with forever. The question is how can you grow it, right? Because people will be like, well, how much did you grow your organic growth? Well, is that really organic growth or paid growth? Very difficult to grow 30% without spending a lot of money.
Well, I guess when I think of organic growth, I think of non-acquisitive growth. So you got to pay for it. You're paying for growth no matter what, right?
Correct.
So
I don't know that it's right, but it's something that we're talking about right now, and it's debatable. Like, it's debatable that even if we'll do it. I could tell you that when we went into the Poconos, that's the model that they were using, which is kind of when I went to the Poconos, I brought one of my guys in, and I was there doing the integration. And when we were selling the jobs, I was like, this is easy. I'm like, good Lord. I'm like, and we're getting good money. How long are we spending? 20 minutes, 25 minutes? It's $125. That's good money for residential pest control. And they ate it up. They loved it. So I was like, like, can this translate to other areas? That was March, let's say. We haven't done it. So I'm not saying it's definitive, but like it's definitely in the realm of possibilities.
well, couldn't you just test it? Couldn't you
Sure.
have that as an offering? Keep your core as it is, and
Yeah. Well, as you know, as the as the owner, if I'm allowed to just continue to throw grenades all day,
crazy ideas like, hey, we're going every other month now.
I do that sometimes, and then I get yelled at, and I get told, just please stay away and let us run the company and do our job. So could I do that? Yeah. Will I do that? No.
But you raise another point. So on the Resi side on Long Island, you're doing triennial services as opposed to quarterly.
Quarterly and triennial. We have a mix.
A mix.
Yeah.
You were always quarterly, and you're transitioning to
We just
triennial?
changed some of them over. Yeah.
Why?
People told us we could make more money and service less, and customers wouldn't care, and they don't typically. The majority of customers don't care. They don't know the difference between the 3 or 4. So we've tried it out, and it seems to be working. But again, it's working in the sense of what everyone else is doing. It's not like a long-term solution. Like, that's not going to help us grow 25%. This is not. That's going to help us maintain. It's going to help us run with the crowd. The question is what can we do differently so that either marketing-wise or selling-wise, where we're selling the same thing to the same customer that we sold the day before, but a little bit differently, just twisting it just a touch to make it pop. That's the chase, right? That's the chess match that I've been doing for 12 years. And I've hit a couple home runs, where I've done stuff, and not all of it's been great, but more successes than not.
I don't want to delve too deep in this. Just one question pops into my mind. Like, why would a customer, if I'm a customer at my house, why would I prefer, say I have the opportunity to buy triennial service from you, why would I prefer every other month?
Why would you prefer it?
If I'm a customer, I'm just a residential guy. I don't know shit. Like, why do I care?
So no, it would be, it's the sale. Well, we're going to come out every 2 months. We're going to make sure that we keep the bugs away. We're going to be taking the cobwebs down. We're going to be taking a look in your house to make sure the crickets aren't there.
And the bozos that are doing it 3 times a year are not servicing you right.
You don't even have to say that, because that could potentially be a second offering, right? That could be part of the offers. Like, we have A, B, or C. Sorry, we have A, B, or C, right? So triannual could be still an option.
I mean, it's like you're pest free or like extra pest free. Like, I mean, that's the thing that kind of confuses me because I do think if you start selling this 6 times a year, then people start questioning, well, does 3 times a year work? You're telling me,
I know,
right?
It hasn't been hammered out yet.
Right.
So like I can't give
We're
you.
just talking this
yeah,
through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean-
So one of the things that we did that I threw out there, I think it was at the end of last year, that did not really take off was I was like, well, we got to start like. We want to put on a lot of accounts, right? Because it's all about how many annuities you have, and then you can increase the annuities. So I'm like, let's offer like a couple different packages. We're going to offer one for $99, $29.99. We're going to go back to old school, but with that one, you get 3 services a year, but you have to call us. So we're going to collect $90 a quarter, $29.99 a month. We'll do the initial basically as a loss leader to get you in the door.
Yep.
And then you have to call us, though. So hopefully they don't call us. And now we're getting $30 a month, which sounds, again, counterintuitive to the industry.
You're doing that now?
We tested it.
It makes me concerned that if you're not in control of the schedule, they'll be in control of your schedule.
Well, they can call us up to 3 times a year
yeah.
for $360, $100.
So you're banking on them maybe calling you once
Once or
as
twice.
opposed to, yeah.
And then another one that we toyed with was every time that you bought an initial, you automatically got renewed into our renewal program for $99 a year. Where you can call us, where we charge your credit card on renewal $99, and then a service anytime you call us is $100 or 100. Let's say it was 125, whatever it was, just to kind of automate. So even a one-time became an annuity. We played with that a little bit. Now again,
It's almost like an Amazon Prime model, right? You're paying that, and then you get it cheaper.
Yeah. So we played with it. We did it for like 2 or 3 months. We'll probably watch the results of it in the next year or two to kind of see like what happens with it, see if we get any traction on it. But again, you can't just keep going back to them and to the staff and just telling them to sell differently. That's the problem, right? Because then it's just really confusing. They don't know what's going on. They can't sell it properly, and you're going to not close at a high rate.
Have you thought about one time per annum service?
What was that?
Have you thought about once a year?
What do you mean?
One service per year.
Well, that's kind of what that was. That last one was, you paid the initial, and then we automatically just ran your credit card for $100. You didn't call us. We charge your credit card $100 every year.
So you're assuming you're going to come out once and they'll
If
call
they
you.
called us, they got that one visit. Yeah.
You know, the one problem that you have, though, Jeremy, is if you get... I know you're trying to differentiate yourself from the industry, but sometimes when you get too far out in left field, it becomes hard to integrate your business when that time comes when your wife's like, sell this.
No, it won't be.
You don't think?
No. I'm a master integrator. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm talking about like, you're
no.
not going to be doing the integration. It's
I
going to
know.
be these acquirers that are all running up in your neck of the woods 3 times per annum.
I think if you're going every other month or you have a triannual basis, it's not so hard. There's not that big of a leap. But the other ones that we tested for just like a month or two,
Those are a little bit...
those would be difficult. This is why we tested, just kind of see if it worked.
Yeah.
Listen, if we could have popped, what I didn't see was the pop. So that $99, $29.99, what I wanted to see was $400 in a month.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
You didn't.
So I was like, this is not going to work. Just a quick test.
So are you just going to keep those guys on that program then? You're not offering it anymore, though they're on a legacy
No,
plan?
they would be on a legacy until we want them off. And
see.
then we would just kick them off.
Hey, we're not doing this anymore. We're doing that. Yeah.
If certainly if they're abusive of the policy, of anyone that's abusive of any program, we just change.
What's your focus now, resi versus commercial, business-wide?
I mean, I love commercial. I would love to be 90-10 commercial. It's just easier business, less headache, more money in terms of like the dollar volume per customer.
Yeah.
But we take what we get. We're focused in on both. So I would say, if I could be 70-30, I'd be happy. Commercial.
What are you now?
Probably 55-45 commercial.
Okay. But I mean, you could be 90-10 commercial. I guess you hire a bunch of commercial sales guys.
I have.
Scale it.
Didn't work.
No?
No.
Why?
It didn't work. I've hired different salespeople over the year. The last few did not work out the way that we wanted. So that doesn't mean we're ending. I was just telling someone else, we're looking for, beast of an outside salesperson in New York City. New York City is open, right? It could be 5-10 million, as that one big company that sold a few years ago probably was doing 20 million just in New York City. There's a lot of money we made in New York City. So right now we're putting it out in the ether. We're looking for a beast of a salesperson. Doesn't have to be from pest control. Just anyone that can sell into apartment buildings or commercial buildings in Manhattan. Like that's kind of the focus in my head. Nowhere else. Just kind of putting it out there to everyone that I talk to because that's what we're looking for. We want to quadruple the amount of business we're doing just in Manhattan.
So you're going to do that by finding commercial sales guys,
Potentially.
doing acquisitions.
Absolutely.
So for guys that are in kind of the New York metro area that might be interested in selling, what's your typical? I know what you've done historically, but who would be a guy you would want to talk to in terms of size?
I would say anyone. I mean, probably anyone up to $1 million, depending on the size, depending on what type of business it is. I think once you get up to $1 million, they're going to be talking to guys like you, which means that I'm out of the game.
Yeah.
I'm out of that game. I can't compete.
Yeah.
I can't compete with the big guys.
It'd be stupid too.
Yeah, I just can't do it. We did, again, what all the what do you call it? The hedge money?
The what?
The hedge fund money? What's it called?
Yeah.
What's
Institutional money?
Institutional money. So, what Anthony Semix came in, 2012, right? Right around 2012?
They came in 16.
16, right.
Yeah.
So we both identified they did it on a much more massive scale, that boomers are no longer going to be working, right? They're
Yeah.
going to be selling out their businesses. We probably still have another 5 to 12 years of that, of like the end of the boomers kind of running their businesses.
That's right.
And so when we identified that early on, so we're looking for those types of guys who like want to leave their company to someone that could take care of their staff, right? That's not going to fire them right away, that can hold on to their name and build out their name and their legacy, treat their clients like a small business can, whereas like a larger one maybe can't. And just continue working in the area. Like we're local people, and we hire local people. We're managed by local people, so we're local companies. Even though we have a company in Pennsylvania, it's run by people who live in Pennsylvania. In New Jersey, we're run by people who live in New Jersey. I don't live there, but people who run it do.
Let me ask you, you've been in Long Island and in New York Metro a long time. How has the business, if we think back over basically since 2017, you've had like Assured was acquired, Suburban was acquired, Magic, the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot
Arrow.
of deals done. Arrow. So how has business changed much for you in light of these acquisitions? Have you been able to pick up good people due to the acquisitions? Do you feel like you're getting, or not so much?
No, a little bit. No.
I mean, in a lot of areas of the country, some of these acquisitions have been disasters. And actually, in New York, these acquisitions really haven't been train wrecks like some other areas, right?
I think prior to Anti-CMX figuring out not to change the name of the company, right, and like creating the platform companies, which they did with Scientific out in I think that was their first one not Scientific. There was someone out east that they started with before they bought someone else, and now they brought McAllen. But keeping the names of the company, I think was a major change, which is why they haven't been such a disaster. Like Arrow's still Arrow, Suburban is still Suburban, Magic is still Magic in those areas, I think. Yeah. Whereas prior to that, when Terminix and Orkin would go in, goes now back to the 90s and the early 2000s. Like
change the name on day one.
They would change the name on day one, and everyone would be like, whew. We saw a lot more business coming in those days when Terminix just flew in. Now, even though Terminix may be buying them now, when they keep the same management and they change their model, the attrition is less.
Yeah.
We've seen.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it was Rent-A-Kill that acquired a lot of those businesses on Long Island, and they've left them run standalone.
Right.
They've kept the same people in charge. Yeah.
Yeah, and their names are still there, which again, it would have been a foolish decision to brand it all as one. Like if Arrow has a huge name in Long Island, Suburban has a huge name, Magic has a big name, right? They were all like three of these massive companies. Why wouldn't they have them all calling into the same database? Who cares?
Yeah.
When the people call us, we just answer pest control. That's it. Pest control. How can we help you? Is this so and so? Yeah, this is so and so.
Do you feel like competition has changed in any way with regard to like the financial sponsors and private equity firms getting into it? They bought Select, right? There's been some other investments there in the Northeast. Has that changed the game at all, do you think? In terms of adding sophistication, or no?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Still pest control, killing bugs.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Listen, I appreciate you joining me today. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Paul.
Glad you're being able to escape the Mexican now. Cheers, brother.